listeners, myself Bhavani Pintela, working as an assistant professor in Noida Institute of Engineering and Technology, Pharmacy Institute, Greater Noida. In this today lecture 17, we are going to discuss about mechanism and regulation of respiratory system. So, in this lecture, we are going to cover about what is the mechanism of respiration and what is the regulation of respiration. Without any further delay, we will move into the class. So, before talking about the respiration, let me say what are the most important muscles which are responsible for the respiration. So, we are having mostly two important muscles which helps in respiration. They are the intercostal muscle and diaphragm muscle. So, these are the most two important muscles which helps by contracting of these muscles and by relaxation of these muscles will causes the respiration. So, what are the two most important muscles? One is the intercostal muscle and second one is the diaphragm muscle. Okay. And next we see about what is an intercostal muscle. So, if I am talking about this intercostal muscle, we know that we are having totally 12 pairs of ribs, right. In the 12 pairs of ribs, in between these 12 pairs of ribs, we having the 11 pairs of intercostal muscle will be get occupied. So, totally having the 12 pairs of ribs and their 11 pairs of intercostal muscle will be arranged in the space of these 12 pairs of ribs. And what the intercostal muscle will do here? The intercostal muscle will helps in inspiration. How it will helps in inspiration? We will see in the later slides. And this intercostal muscle is arranged in two layers. What are the two layers? One is external intercostal muscle and second one is the internal intercostal muscle. So, look at this picture. So, you can see here this is an internal intercostal muscle and this is an external intercostal muscle. So, these are the ribs. So, these are the ribs and this intercostal muscle has been arranged in between the 12 pairs of ribs. So, totally having the 11 intercostal, so 11 pairs of intercostal muscles. Okay. So, this is an internal intercostal muscle where you can see this is an internal intercostal muscle and this is an external intercostal muscle. Okay. This is the innermost intercostal muscle. So, what it will do here? Here what happens? Here the first rib will be get fixed. So, if you are seeing here the first rib will get fixed and when the intercostal muscle has been contracted and the other ribs will pull upward direction. So, how the inspiration will be happens here? So, this is an intercostal muscle which has been occupied in space between the 12 ribs and here the first rib will be get fixed when the intercostal muscle has been contracted. When the intercostal muscle has been contracted, then what is going to happen? The rest of the 12 ribs will be moved to the upward direction. Okay. And now we will discuss about the diaphragm muscle. It is like a dome shaped muscular structure and what is the role of here? So, if I am talking about this, it is a dome shaped muscular structure. So, where it will forms, if I am talking about the diaphragm, it forms the floor of the thoracic cavity. So, diaphragm is a floor of a thoracic cavity. This is a diaphragm where it forms the floor of a thoracic cavity and floor of an abdominal cavity. So, this is the location of a diaphragm muscle. And next we will go with the cycle of breathing. So, how many cycles are there for inspiration and how many cycles are there for the breathing? Let me see about the mechanism of action of respiration. So, if I am talking here per unit time, we will take approximately 12 to 15 breaths. Okay, and it consists of 3 phases. What are the 3 phases? What are the 3 phases that include in the breathing? One is inspiration and second one is expiration and third one is pause. So, while taking the breath, you will having the 3 cycles. One is the inspiration, second one is the expiration and final was pause. You will take a small gap and then you will continue with the inspiration. So, if I am talking about the inspiration, it is an active process where the energy has been required. Okay, and what will happens here? The contraction of inspiratory muscles you can see. So, it is an inspiration. So, what is going to happen here in inspiration? The contraction of inspiratory muscle has been seen. Okay, and next if I am talking about the expiration, it is a passive diffusion. So, here it is a passive process, not diffusion, it is a passive process where it do not requires the energy. And last one is a phase and where you can see after expiration the phase will be happens. It means there is a pause before it is a pause for a next cycle. Okay. And now we will discuss the mechanism of action, how exactly happen while we are taking the breaths. Okay. First what is going to happen? The pressure inside the lung has been decreased When the pressure inside the lung decreases, then the air rushes into the lung. So, this is the thing you will see in the inspiration. So, in mechanism of action we will discuss mainly 2 points. One is inspiration, how inspiration is going to happen, and second one is how expiration will be happen. Okay. In this slide we are going to discuss about the inspiration. So, what is going to happen in the inspiration? Here the pressure, here we are talking about the pressure inside the lung has been decreased. When the pressure decreases, you know that when the pressure decreases, the air will enters into the lung, and we will see how it will happen. So, I had said you the two most important muscles will helps in inspiration as intercostal muscle and diaphragm muscle. So, what is going to happen here? The both muscles, what are the both muscles here? Diaphragm and intercostal muscles. So, these are the two muscles, diaphragm and intercostal muscles. In inspiration, what is going to happen? These two muscles will be get contracted. So, the two muscles will be get contracted. When the two muscles has been contracted, then what is going to happen? Here the diaphragm moves downward and intercostal muscle pulls, it will keep the first rib in a constant position and pulls the rest of the ribs to the upper part of the ribs. So, what is going to happen? That there will be the space inside the alveoli. So, try to understand here what I am saying. In inspiration process, the intercostal muscle and diaphragm muscle will be get contracted. How it will get contracted? By contracting of this muscle, the diaphragm will move downward and the intercostal muscle pulls the rib upwards. So, you can see here the space in between on the alveoli will be get increased. You know that if the volume has been increased, if the volume of alveoli has been increased, it means the lung has been expanded here. If the lung has been expanded, the intra-alveolar pressure has been increased, then what is going to happen? The slight change in the pressure, it is enough to carry the air inside the lung. So, you can carry 500 ml of air inside the lung within a 2 minutes in the inspiration process. Okay. So, this is about the inspiration. So, now we will discuss about the expiration. So, what will be happens in the expiration? In inspiration, you will see the pressure will be get decreased and the air rushes inside. Here what is going to happen? The pressure inside the lung has been increased and the air will be moves out from the lung. So, how it is going to happen? So, this is the condition where you see in the expiration. What is happening here? The pressure inside the lung increases. Here inside the lung the pressure has been increased. So, once the pressure has been increased inside the lung, it have to push the air from the lung, right. So, here the expiration process will be happen. So, what is going to happen here? The diaphragm and intercostal muscle relax. This is the students you have to remember. In inspiration, the intercostal muscle and diaphragm muscle will be get contracted, and in expiration the both muscle will be get relaxed. Okay. So, in this process, in what this process? Expiration process. In the expiration process, the intercostal muscle and diaphragm muscle will be get relaxed, and what is going to happen here? The downward and inward movement of a rib cage. The rib cage will be get downward and inward movement. So, when it has been contracted, it moves upward. So, try to understand here. In inspiration, when the muscles has been contracted, the ribs pulls upward, and here I am talking about expiration. So, here the muscles has been relaxed. So, it will pull downward and inward. So, here the ribs will come downward and inward, and the alveoli will comes into the original position, and the thoracic cavity will return into the original position, and the pressure inside the lung has been increased and the air rushes out. So, this is a small diagram where you can understand in a better way. So, this is an inspiration and this is an expiration, okay, inhalation and exhalation. So, if you see here, so these are the ribs, and you know that in previous slide I had explained that the intercostal muscle has been occupied in space between the ribs, right. So, look at here, in inspiration when the air has been entered, what is going to happen in inspiration process? The intercostal muscle and diaphragm muscle. So, look at here, this is a diaphragm, this is an intercostal muscle. The both muscle will be get contracted. So, when this muscle has been contracted, the ribs will move upward direction. So, he had given the arrows in upward movement, and the diaphragm moves downward. The diaphragm will move downward and rib cages moves upward. Okay, and you see here the space. You can see the space here in the thoracic cavity. This is a space of an alveoli has been increased in the inspiration. So, this increase in space, it is enough to fill the 500 ml of air inside the lung. And now we will discuss about the expiration. What is going to happen in expiration? So, in expiration, here the pressure inside the lung has been increased. The pressure inside the lung has been increased, the ribs will move downward and the diaphragm will come to the original position. So, if you see the space, look at this space here, the space between the expiration and the space between the inspiration. So, here the volume, here I am talking about the volume in inspiration has been increased. Yes, is it right? When the volume has been increased, the pressure will be get decreased. So, then the air can be entered into the lung. And here what is going to happen? Here the space has been decreased, here the volume has been decreased, So, what is going to happen here? The decreased in volume, the pressure has been increased. It is a small logic, right? When the volume has been increased, the pressure will be get decreased. When the volume has been decreased, when the volume has gets low, what is going to happen here? The pressure inside the lung will be get increased. So, this is the happens in the inspiration and expiration. So, here 2 points how to remember. In inspiration, the intercostal muscle and diaphragm muscle will be get contracted, and in expiration, the both muscle will be get relaxed. And this is the mechanism of action, how the air will enter and how the air will be leave from the cell. Okay. So, air will enter into the nostrils and after that nasal cavity, and after that it will enter into the pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and it will enter into the bronchioles, alveoli, and finally the air enter into the blood. This is the process of inspiration. Here I am talking about inspiration, how air enter into the blood. How the air will enter into the blood? Air enters through the nostrils, and nostrils to nasal cavity to pharynx, pharynx to larynx, larynx to trachea, trachea to bronchi, bronchi to bronchioles, and finally to alveoli, and it will enter into the blood. When I am talking about the expiration, what is going to happen from the blood? Here it will begins from the blood. Here the air will expel from the blood. Okay, from the blood it will enter into the alveoli and it will enter into the bronchioles, and after to bronchi, trachea, larynx, pharynx, nasal cavity, and finally the air will leaves from the nostril. So, this is an inspiration and this is an expiration. So, in this slide we are going to discuss about the composition of inspired and expired air. So, this is the composition of inspired and expired air. There are the few gases here mentioned: oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, rare gases, and water vapor. So, what is the inspired air percentage of these gases and what is the expired percentage of these gases? So, if I am talking about the oxygen, the inspired air percentage was 21, and for oxygen expired air percentage was 16, and for carbon dioxide it is 0.04, and the expired air percentage was 4, and for nitrogen how much you will be get inhaled, that much will be get exhaled, 78 and 78. And if I am talking about the water vapor, depending upon the climate and the condition, thus it will be variable, and expired air will be get saturated. The saturated percentage you will see in the expired air. Okay. So, now we will discuss about the internal respiration and external respiration. Do not get confused here about inspiration and expiration, internal respiration and external respiration. So, if I had explained in my previous slides that in a cycle of breathing we will see the mainly 3 steps. One is inspiration, expiration, pause, right. After inspiration you will say next step, you can say the next step like internal respiration. What will be happens, how the gases will be get exchanged inside the respiration. So, you can term as an internal respiration. After inspiration there will be a next step, internal respiration, and before expiration you will see the external respiration, and finally pause for a few seconds, and then the cycle will be get repeated in a minute. Okay. So, here what we will discuss about the internal respiration and external respiration. In internal respiration you can say the exchange of gases will be seen. So, the name itself indicates internal. So, the internally it have to exchange the gases, and how it will exchange the gases? Here the exchange of gases. What are the gases here? Oxygen and carbon dioxide. The oxygen and carbon dioxide will get exchanged between the blood and tissue. So, this is the reason why you are calling as an internal respiration. Here the gases exchange you will see between the blood and fluid, or between the blood and tissue fluid. Okay. And what about the external respiration? Here exchange of gases between air and blood. You will see the exchange, where you can see the exchange of the gases between air and blood. And while talking about inspiration, you will see the exchange of gases between where you can see blood and tissue fluid. Okay. So, here you will see the breathing. So, here you cannot see the breathing. In inspiration, you do not see the breathing. Okay. Once the inspiration has been happened, right, internal respiration is going to happen. So, here there is no meaning of breathing. So, here you cannot see, it does not involve the breathing, but in external respiration you can see, or it can involve the breathing, and this is associated with only internal environment. So, if I am talking about internal respiration, it is associated with only internal environment, and if I am talking about the external respiration, it is associated with both internal and external environment. If I am talking about the oxygen gas, so how it is getting to diffuse? Here in internal respiration, the oxygen diffused out from the blood into the tissue. Where it moving? So, oxygen will be carried in the blood, right, and here the oxygen from the blood will be diffused into the tissue. And what happens in expiration? Here oxygen diffuses out from the air into the blood. Okay. And next, there are the few other points about the internal respiration and external respiration. Here I had discussed about the previous slide oxygen, and now we will go with the carbon dioxide. Okay, carbon dioxide diffuses from the tissue. So, how much the oxygen the cell need, it will take from the blood, and now the cell will diffuses the carbon dioxide. The cell will diffuse the carbon dioxide into the blood, and in expiration, carbon dioxide diffuses out from the blood into the alveolar air. So, from the blood in external respiration, it will be diffused into the alveolar air. So, if I am talking about the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the inspiration, if I am talking about the internal respiration, the carbon dioxide partial pressure was increased. How much it will be get increased? It will be increased from 40 mmHg to 45 mmHg. What is an Hg? Hg here pressure. So, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in blood is increased from 40 mmHg to 45 mmHg. In internal respiration, the carbon dioxide pressure will be get increased. In external respiration, the carbon dioxide pressure will be get decreased. So, here the pressure will be decreased. So, look at here 45 to 40 mg. Here the pressure increased from 40 to 45, and here the pressure decreased in external respiration 45 to 40 mmHg. Okay. And if I am talking about the oxygen and internal respiration, the partial pressure of oxygen in blood decreased 100 mm to 40 mm. So, this is in a vice versa. You can remember here, when the carbon dioxide partial pressure will be increased in internal respiration, oxygen partial pressure will be get decreased in the blood. Okay. So, carbon dioxide partial pressure will be get increased in the internal respiration, and oxygen partial pressure will be get decreased in the blood, and it is the value about 10 mmHg to 40 mmHg. The pressure from 100, it is going to reduce to the 40 mmHg. And what about the external respiration? Here the pressure will be get increased from 40 to 100. So, this is the difference between the internal and external respiration. By this diagrammatic form, you can understand in a better way. This is about the internal respiration, okay, and this is about the external respiration. So, if you see here, so internal respiration, what is going to happen here? The exchange of gases, where the exchange of gases you can see, the exchange of gases you can see between the capillary, blood and tissue, where exchange of gases you can see from the blood and tissue. In expiration, exchange of gases between alveolar air and capillary blood. Okay. So, in this diagram, what is going to happen? Here this is any tissue fluid. Okay. Here the exchange will be happens between the capillary to tissue, right. In internal respiration, the gases exchange is between capillary blood and tissue cell. So, this is any tissue fluid, this is any tissue cells, this is any capillary wall, okay. This is an arterial end, this is an venous end, by where the air can passes, the blood can passes. The arterial end of capillary, the blood flows to the venous end of an capillary. Okay. Here the oxygen from the capillary to oxygen, what I am saying here, the exchange of oxygen you can see from blood to tissue, right. In internal inspiration, what is going to happen here? The diffusion of gases been happened, where the gases will be diffused here the oxygen will be diffused into the tissues. Here the oxygen from the blood will be get diffused into the tissue. Here the oxygen from the blood will move to the tissue, and here the diffusion of oxygen from the blood. And what will happen in carbon dioxide? Here the carbon dioxide will diffuses from tissue into the blood. Okay? Oxygen will diffuse from blood to tissue, carbon dioxide diffused from tissue to blood. Okay? And in external respiration, look at here. So, what I had said you, here this is an alveolar air, this is an alveolus, here you can see the diagram, this is an alveolus and this is an alveolar air. And what is the pressure inside the alveolar air? It is for oxygen it is 100 mm and for carbon dioxide it is an 40 mm Hg. So, this is an blood flow to the alveolus. So, here the artery carries blood to the alveolus, and here these are the veins where carries the air to the air from the alveolus. So, blood flows into the alveolus and the blood returns from the alveolus. Okay? Here the artery will helps to flow the blood into the alveolus and the vein will take the blood from the alveolus. Okay? So, what is going to happen here? So, here in the artery, here the pressure of oxygen is 40, okay? And here the pressure has been increased. In external respiration, oxygen pressure has been increased from 40 to 100, and in internal respiration it will be get decreased. Okay? Here the pressure has been increased. And what about the carbon dioxide? Here the pressure has been decreased. In external respiration, carbon dioxide pressure has been decreased and oxygen pressure has been increased from 40 to 100 and here 44 to 40. Okay, and next we will go to the regulation of respiration. Here the regulation of respiration is very important. Here oxygen cannot play any important role in the respiration regulation, right. Here what is the center is responsible for respiratory regulation? Here the neuronal center is responsible for regulation. So, this is an important center where it can causes increased or decreased the respiratory rate according to the demand of the body. Okay. So, this is a regulation of respiration. If I am talking about the regulation of respiration, it has been divided into neuronal and chemical, and this neuronal is further divided into involuntary center and voluntary breathing center. And involuntary breathing center has been present in the medulla and pons. And where this involuntary breathing center has been located, where it is present? It is present in the medulla and pons. And what about the voluntary breathing center? Voluntary breathing center is present in the cerebral cortex. So, here this voluntary breathing center has been present in the cerebral cortex. If I am moving to the chemical is further divided into two types, central chemoreceptor and peripheral chemoreceptor. So, if I am talking about the regulation of receptor, the regulation of receptor has been divided into two major types. One is neuronal regulation and second one is chemical regulation. The neuronal regulation in turn further divided into involuntary breathing center and voluntary breathing center. In involuntary breathing center is located or it is present in the medulla and pons. And what about the voluntary breathing center? Voluntary breathing center present in the medulla, it is present in the cerebral cortex. Okay. And if I am talking about this chemical regulation has been further classified into two types. One is central chemoreceptor or central chemoreceptor regulation, and second one is a peripheral chemoreceptor regulation. Okay. So, these are the centers. In the previous slide I had discussed about the regulation of respiration, and to regulate the respiration there are the mainly two main centers. What are the two main centers? One is medullary center, second one is pontine center, which you can shortly named as pons. Okay. So, the regulation of respiration, here the respiratory centers has been divided into two types. One is medullary center and second one is pontine center. In medullary center, each center has been further classified into two types. In medullary center, you will see the expiratory center and inspiratory center, and in pontine center, you can see the pneumotaxic center and apneustic center. So, let me see about what are the centers that can control the respiration. Here we will discuss about the medulla, pneumatic center, and this one is chemoreceptor sensory region, receptors and pneumatic center. So, if I am talking about the medulla, here there are the two main centers, one is dorsal respiratory group and ventral respiratory group. Dorsal respiratory group is responsible, it will regulate the inspiration, it will regulate the respiratory system. it causes the inspiration. And what about the ventral respiratory group? The ventral respiratory group is responsible for both inspiration and expiration. Okay, next one is pneumatic center. Next one is pneumatic center. Pneumatic center you can call as an upper pons, and what it will do? It will control the respiratory rate. How it will control the respiratory rate? By blocking of this center. Okay. And next one is receptor. There are some receptors, students, where they will recognize how the changes in oxygen and hydrogen concentration. Okay, next one, chemoreceptor sensitive zone. This will senses the excess of carbon dioxide and oxygen inside the center, and it will reduces, and it will make to reduce this concentration. And last one is pneumatic center, and which will promote the inspiration. So, the pneumatic center you can call as a lower pons, and this you can call as an upper pons. Pneumatic center you can call as an upper pons, and apneustic center you can call as a lower pons. So, this is responsible for the inspiration, and upper one is responsible for the respiratory rate. Thank you.